Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast, where we tell it like it was and is. I'm your host, Rick Reed, and I'm so happy that he's back after a short hiatus, traveling the world, figuring out problems for everyone, helping the world be a better place. Mr. John Hayes is here today. Welcome back, John.
Thank you, Rick. It remains an honor to be a Boomer Buddy, and thank you for describing what I do as solving problems instead of causing problems. So that's appreciated.
If I asked Mrs. Hayes, would she say the same thing?
No, I'm not sure.
All right. Well, today we're going to do a show that you wanted to cover. And I know I've had some other Boomer buddies, the subscribers, reach out to me and say they wanted to see this classic TV show as well. John, thank you for doing so much prep work on this. Let's tell the audience what the show is we're going to cover.
Yes, I chose the subject, and you put a little pressure on me here. I chose the subject of the TV show The Love Boat. And I hope I can give it justice and give our viewers what they expect from it. So this will be exciting.
I saw your outline, John. You do not disappoint. Well, let's just talk about, first of all, the overview of the show, when it aired, a little backstory.
Certainly. The Love Boat TV show aired on ABC for 250 episodes from 1977 to 1986. The show consistently placed in the top 25 of the Nielsen ratings for those first 7 seasons, then subsequently fell to number 34 in 1985 and number 62 in 1986. The show is basically a romantic comedy that followed the passengers and crew aboard the cruise ship Pacific Princess. And the crew members remained the same, but each new episode featured multiple guest stars who were passengers on the cruise ship. The series itself was based on a 1974 book written by Geraldine Saunders. That book was titled The Love Boats, and she wrote this book based on her experiences and observations as a hostess on a cruise ship.
So she had an aha moment about her job and parlayed it into quite a little franchise, didn't she?
Yeah, it's a cool story. I'd like to. I didn't read the entire book in my show prep, but I understand it's a very interesting read.
The mid-70s, mid to late 70s is when that came out. And right away, was it a TV show?
They had 2 made-for-TV movies that served as a pilot, and then they launched into. Then they decided to make it a full TV show. Yeah.
I'm thinking back to the mid-70s, and that's when miniseries and made-for-TV movies were very popular. The series was a creation out of those made-for-TV movies. That's interesting. I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, who were the main characters on the show?
Captain Merrill Stubing was played by Gavin MacLeod.
He was Murray on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yes, and before that, he also appeared in the TV show McHale's Navy. So maybe they thought all that naval experience, he worked his way up to captain.
Absolutely. And he also was a character actor. You know, other TV shows that you would see on MeTV, he'd be on a few of those as well.
Absolutely. The ship's doctor, Dr. Adam Bricker, was played by Bernie Koppel. And in the show, Bernie, he's a bit of a ladies' man. He's famously married and divorced 6 times, but from the episodes I remember, he also seemed to be a competent doctor. So what the heck, as long as he does his job, I'm cool with all that.
He played the part very well, and I enjoy watching him. Of course, I remember him from Get Smart. You know, he was a chaos agent, and he always said "schmart." He had German English way of talking. And Bernie Koppel, is it Koppel or Koppel? I'm not sure, but let's call him Bernie. Bernie's comedic timing is wonderful.
Absolutely. Julie McCoy, she is the activities director, as played by actress Lauren Tews. And she was very upbeat, positive, energetic, and I enjoyed her in the show when she would sometimes play a bit of a role of the matchmaker, try to facilitate these passengers getting together. But yeah, just a very fun, positive, upbeat person. So a very believable role as a cruise director.
And how many times did she get her heart broken?
Wow, in my research, I didn't quite uncover that number, but it seemed like a healthy one.
Yeah, it's kind of a rhetorical question. It seems like that was a reoccurring theme for poor Julie.
Burl Gopher Smith. He was the ship's purser, and he was played by actor Fred Grandy. And he was often involved in I'll term it as a little bit of slapstick humor. Found himself in these humorous predicaments, but I enjoyed also Fred Grandy's role in the whole show.
Yeah, he was the assigned goofball.
Yeah,
Very comedic. Usually when they featured him, it was slapstick, old time comedy, just like you were mentioning.
absolutely. And finally, the main cast and characters we're going to cover, I guess, for this segment of the show. The bartender, Isaac Washington, was played by actor Ted Lang, and he was one cool guy. He's friendly, cool, charismatic. Had kind of a common sense wisdom about him, where you came to your bartender with a problem. He had that, and he could solve your problems for you. And I enjoyed his character also. And
Yeah, I really enjoyed Isaac. He was a psychiatrist, you know?
yes,
He was a priest. The confessional is the bar, right? And he
yeah,
was very, very solid. He's kind of the glue of that group. And I think Doc Bernie Coppell, I think he had the same kind of a role where he would calm people down, common sense. He would diagnose the situation and find a cure. And those two I thought were pretty underrated. Isaac really was underrated.
yeah. In my research, I found that this team working together it was very believable. They were coworkers. I mean, they had a common mission. They're all about the passenger experience. And I've been lucky enough in my professional career to work on teams where we're all about, customer service or whatever. And I really enjoyed that aspect of the show, watching this and doing the research.
One thing I'll say there, 'cause you make me think of the crew in a photo op at the beginning or the end where they're all together. They wore pretty cool uniforms too. He'd wear this kind of ice blue, little short-waisted thing. And listen to me, Mr. Fashion. I don't know anything about fashion, but uniforms were very classy, and I enjoyed the red, tan. They had all different ones, white, black. Yeah, that's just a little facet of the show that caught my eye, and I don't know to this day why. It just was cool.
I will admit that when the show first aired, I recognize the actor Gavin MacLeod from his work on Mary Tyler Moore's show, McHale's Navy. Bernie Coppell, how we're going to say his name, but I think I recognized him as a character actor, but I could be getting him mixed up with. To me, he looked like Artie Johnson. So I could be getting
Yeah,
him mixed up with Artie Johnson. But
that's
the
right.
other three cast members, I was not aware of any of their talents before the TV show Love Boat.
Gopher, he ended up being in state government, or was he a full-blown congressman?
Awesome point. After the TV show, he served 4 terms as a U.S. congressman representing Iowa. So he served from nearly from the show's end, from 1986 through 1994. He served as a congressman, and I thought that guy, the goofball from Love Boat, but he served 4 terms. He did a nice job, yeah.
You do remember him being from Iowa, do you?
I wasn't living here at the time. I didn't vote for him. I was living in Minnesota at the time.
One thing about Bernie is he's so talented and everything. And for the role he played, they wanted him to look a little bit more youthful. And so he was a toupee wearer in the show. And he's got a wonderful sense of humor. And one of the things he's thankful for is in the love scenes that never fell off. The
Quite
kissing
embarrassing,
scenes or
yes.
whatever. Yeah, the behind the scenes stuff on the show is pretty interesting. And I have to say, John, right away off the bat, I was never a huge fan of the show. When I was in college is pretty much when it started. So it was curious for me in the house I lived in with a bunch of guys. I think there's 20 guys. We watched Love Boat, and you might be go, what? Well, just think of why these young males would be watching Love Boat. And I think maybe a little bit further down on our schedule here, our little plan, we might be able to talk about that a little bit more, why young and old like the show.
Certainly. Well said.
So who other significant cast members came along later? We think of the core ones that are, who else should we mention?
Well, I mean, I don't recall precisely what season it was, but the captain's daughter, Vicky,
Yes.
joined the cast, and we got to see her from the early teenage years through her later teenage years, and that on the show also, the captain got married.
Yes.
Someone that we should recognize from our boomer experiences from the TV. He married Marion Ross, who of course was Mrs. Cunningham on Happy Days, and then she became a member of the cast. For my research, I focused on the five crew members, but it's interesting how. And then also there was another cast member. They actually added an official ship's photographer. I recall the actor's name with that one. That was later in the show, and we mentioned this before. Now, Rick, do you remember? Do you remember the Love Boat Mermaids?
I sure do. I sure do. They came on, I think, the last two seasons. There's a few regulars that had left, and I don't know if you have that coming up to talk about, but they brought him on. It's Ted McGinley, I think was his
Yes,
name.
nice. Yep, yep.
Yeah, you might remember him as the neighbor to Al Bundy
Married with
on
Children.
on
Yeah.
Married with Children. He was the neighbor. But he came on kind of as eye candy for the girls or anybody that likes his look. You're probably wondering, viewers and listeners, how I know a little bit of this stuff. It's because my wife cannot go to sleep without the TV on. So I wear the eye things and have a pillow over my head until she falls asleep, and then I grab the remote and shut it off. But she watches it nonstop at night on Pluto. And so I'm kind of watching this stuff. And now that I'm an old boomer, I'm kind of looking at it through a nostalgic lens and also knowing that John and I would probably do this topic. So anyway, the last couple seasons he was on there, and he, I think, ended up not being just the photographer, but I think he became one of the pursers. So
Wow.
write in, comment, please. Correct either one of us. We just do this because we like to talk about old nostalgic stuff, and we're not claiming to be experts on it. We're just fans or trying to become fans of what we're talking about. So just know that before you comment, please have a little mercy. We're having fun. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and I will spend hours and hours and hours or weeks and weeks and weeks in research. It's I'm not going to give away the whole podcast formula here, but Rick will contact me a few days before recording and say, "Hey, let's do a podcast on this." Okay, and I mean, I'm retired, so I've got a lot of things to do. I've got my schedule, and but so the podcast research we do a fair amount of it, but it's not in depth as a true fan of this series might have.
Yeah, we're tapping into our ancient memories and impressions that we have from that time. And we're trying to relive it a little bit here and try to give you a little information you may not know about the show. And that beyond that, that's all we're doing. And we're having a ball doing it. When I publish this up to YouTube or on Spotify or Buzzsprout in the audio format, I love the feedback. And then of course I share it with John or whoever the guest might be. That's what we do. So be kind when you give your comments and also give us information and correct us if you need to. That's fine. Or give us your memories about back in the day and why you watched a show, or if we're doing music, why you listen to that, or if we talk about a band. Just let us know. We want you involved in this. So let's get back to the action. The daughter of Captain Stubing, Jill Whelan was her name, the actress's
The
name.
actress, yeah, her name in the show was Vicky.
Vicky. Now,
Yeah.
Vicky, it's been fun watching her grow with the show from an awkward 12-year-old to a pretty young lady actually being one of the crew members. I think she did a really good job. Really good job.
One of the cool things I found is Gavin McLeod's real name was Alan George C. And you know how I feel about people who use aliases, but
Yeah, of
he
course you.
he chose the alias of Gavin McLeod, but the McLeod surname is homage to one of his early drama teachers, Beatrice McLeod. He described her as the most inspirational human being I ever met. And I thought that was a cool thing. Like, what a way to honor a drama teacher is use her surname as your surname.
Well, that is awesome. I got to ask you this before we keep going with more trivia. Well, maybe this is trivia. Was Linda Carter ever a guest on Love Boat?
She was not. Lyle Waggoner, her co-star on Wonder Woman, he made a number of appearances on Love Boat. As you know, a lot of the guest stars would appear in a bikini. I think if that would have happened, my television set would have melted.
Viewers and listeners, I should remind you all, if you didn't know or forgot, that John has it in his contract with My Boomer Buddies podcast that I have to do at least one mention of Linda Carter. So there.
Thank you.
We're up to snuff. What other tidbits do you have, or trivia or observations you want to share?
I thought it was interesting that, well, number one, we had two of the main cast members who served in our nation's military, which is awesome. Thank you for your service. Ironically, Evan McLeod served in the Air Force. Never served in the Navy, but I think again his experience in McHale's Navy probably qualified him to be a ship's captain. Bernie served in the Navy, served a 2-year term in the Navy, and I didn't know this was his position in the Navy, but he served as the librarian at the Naval Center in Norfolk, Virginia. He was a librarian in the Navy and also served on the battleship USS Iowa. So that was
I
his naval
did not
experience.
know that. It's good stuff. And Bernie, he was quite an athlete, quite active. He looks very fit for whatever age he was
Yeah.
on that show. He plays a lot of tennis, or he did. I think he's still alive, but
Yes,
yeah,
he's still with us. So Gavin is the only cast member who's no longer with us.
gotcha,
I think
gotcha.
he died in 2021, 2020.
Mhm.
I lost
And
that one.
I'm glad that we are doing things like this on our show because we are losing more and more people every week, every day. So it's good to mention the people that are here and the ones that did such a fine job when they were here on this earth.
I've got a fact, and this one. I mean, you know me, I'm a history geek, and
Yes,
this one just freaked me out. But all right, in 1968, December 1968, there was a marriage that featured the grandson of a president and the daughter of another president. So the grandson of one president married the daughter of another president. Even more spectacular, when the grandfather of the groom was in the White House, the father of the bride was his vice president. So, of course, we're talking about the wedding between David Eisenhower and Julie Nixon. Historic wedding, right?
that is. I was
But,
trying to figure the Johnson girl, Lyndon Johnson,
no, no.
but I was
So
off.
for this wedding, guess who the best man was? Fred Grandy
Fred Grandy,
was
really?
the best man. He was the best man. He and David Eisenhower were roommates at Exeter Academy in Vermont. So he was
Where
the
did
best man. Fred Grandy was he's in this historic wedding. Isn't that cool? So you go online, you can see these wedding pictures and see a young Fred Grandy as the best man.
was his hair still goofy, a little flop that,
Yeah, he had glasses. It was,
man, that's a great one to pull out.
yeah, I nearly couldn't sleep at night when I discovered that. It just freaked me out.
I like my trivia. That's a good one. That's probably the best one yet that you've come up with.
Thank you. All right, and I have to mention the theme song, right? I mean, this is
Oh,
a
sure.
recognizable theme song sung by Jack Jones. I think so many of us know the words to this, and I'm going to admit to you, Rick, if I had the talent, I have no musical talent, but if I had the talent of Jack Jones, wouldn't it be awesome to just get up and karaoke and sing this song?
Well, as a matter of fact, I have it for you and you can lip sync to it. Let's
No,
play
no, I can't. I wouldn't do it justice. But you can play it.
let's play it. The Love Boat theme.
Love, exciting and new. Come aboard, we're expecting you. And love, life's sweetest reward. Let it flow, it floats back to you. The love boat, soon we'll be making another run. The love boat promises something for everyone. Set a course for adventure, your mind on a new romance. And love won't hurt anymore. It's an open smile on a friendly shore. It's love. Welcome aboard, it's love.
That was great. Now that theme song was so popular that Jack Jones released that as a single in 1979, and it rose to number 37 on the adult contemporary chart. And it kind of reminds me, remember in the mid 90s when the Rembrandts sang the theme to the TV show Friends?
Yes.
They eventually released that as a single, and that did quite well in the pop chart. So it kind of reminded me of that, where Jack Jones, this theme song is so enjoyed that he released it as a single and it broke into the top 40. I thought that was cool. But here's my question for you. So if you had the talent of a Jack Jones, what song would you sing in karaoke?
Well, you're putting me on the spot, which you
Certainly.
intended to do. I would probably, this is kind of weird because I'm a rock and roll guy, put out some music trivia games in my day. I would probably do a song called Nice to Be With You by Gallery.
Yeah.
It's from when I was in ninth grade, and we did a TV directing class, and me and Jeff Bajan, shout out Jeff, we did a lip sync to that song, and I could remember every word, and I could remember every word of that song for many, many years. And a lot of times I screw up words to songs. I know them, but I just can't sing them right. But that one I could sing right in the lip sync in that class. So that comes to mind right now. And how about you, John Hayes?
All right. If it wasn't the theme song to Love Boat, here's one for you. Bobby Darin, Somewhere Beyond the Sea. I think that is a beautiful song. If I could sing, that'd be awesome to stand up in front of a crowd and sing that song. I think that's a really cool song for a crooner. I mean, Bobby Darin, amazing career. He went from the Split Splash guy to a crooner. I think and I have no idea what the song means. I hope it's nothing bad. I think it's a really cool song. If you could croon and sing like Bobby Darin or Jack Jones, that'd be a cool song to sing.
Little Murder on the Waterfront song for you. I just recalled while you were talking that karaoke, they give you the words.
Yes.
So I might do an alternate choice here. Inagata Davida.
Nice. That would command the room. I think that would do it right
There's
there.
a lot of air guitar. There's not a lot of words. I couldn't screw that.
Did you hear that guy sing? Wow, he was awesome.
Yeah, I think I can handle that. That's an interesting question. I might keep pondering that one too.
How about we talk about the guest stars? I mean, the guest stars played a significant role in the show. I think you mentioned well over 500 guest stars on the show.
552.
Yeah, I mean, some of the ones that I found noteworthy, no right or wrong answer here. You could throw a different list, but a young Tom Hanks
Yes.
was a guest star. Andy Warhol. I nearly lost my mind. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. had multiple appearances on The Love Boat. Now, keep in mind, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., he was a veteran of Hollywood. When he started his Hollywood career, his first few films were silent movies.
Yes, that is something that I always found interesting. How the guests that they would get on there, it would appeal to many older viewers. Like my grandma, I talked to you off camera about, she loved Ethel Merman, big Broadway star, movies. She was just amazing. And I liked her too. But my grandma was so excited to have a show she could watch like that.
Certainly.
And then young people would watch it too. And you go, how do you figure? Because a lot of the guests were past their prime, let's just say. It was a tribute to have them come on there and be able to perform on TV. They didn't do a lot of TV, some of these people, but they were excited to come on. They had a lot of interesting costumes and dresses and things like that. So young guys in college would watch that. They'd get in the dorm and the central TV area, the sitting area, they'd have that on, and Happy Days and other shows like that. And we'd sit there as a group and watch it. But as young guys really liked the bikinis, the styles of the 70s for the women. I'm sure many of the women enjoyed the guys, like Ted McGinley, he was cast on that show for a reason. So you had young viewers too on that show. And then, of course, people like our parents, they watched it as well. So it was a great show for multi-generations to sit together and watch it for various reasons. But I often wondered, you mentioned how many, there was a lot of guest stars, 552. Did you know that there were 32 Oscar-winning movie stars on that
Wow,
show? Now, some
that's
of them
amazing.
hadn't won their Oscars yet, like Tom Hanks, you mentioned.
Now, how about you? Do you have favorite guest stars you'd like to mention that piqued your interest of your research?
I always liked it when they'd have people like Red Button. He came on there and he'd won an Oscar. Funny guy. I love comedians on there. And it was fun to see some of the people I watched in movies when I was a very little kid. And now they're in their 50s, 60s, and maybe even 70s. And they're on the show. They had Mrs. Cleaver on there. They had Wally and the Beav on there too. And with inside jokes, they had a show with inside jokes that people would come on, like the Brady Bunch and stuff like that. I enjoyed those episodes a lot. As far as younger ones, I like some of the younger up and coming female stars were on there. I know Patty Duke was on there a few times, and she ended up winning an Oscar. I've wondered about who's been on there the most, and I think you have the answers for that, don't you?
Well, it depends on how you classify a
Correct?
guest appearance. Did they eventually become now Marion Ross, Mrs. Cunningham? She initially was just a guest, and then she eventually became the wife of the captain. So she became part of the cast. I chose to exclude her from my
And
particular list. No right or wrong answer. Yeah, yeah,
Marion
of course.
Ross was on 14 times. Okay. And that
Okay.
was, like you said, being part of the cast eventually. But who had the most besides her?
I'm going to give the title to Florence Henderson. 10 episodes.
She had
How
10.
about you?
I know this from my wife having the TV on. Tyra was on every episode, it seemed like to me, doing her Gucci Gucci, you know.
I was going to
But
mention
she
the
was,
same point. I was surprised Charo wasn't on there 52 times. I mean, it seemed like every other episode, oh, we can't find him. How about we call Charo again? So she'd be on
yeah,
there.
she came on 10 times, same as Florence Henderson. She did have the same role on 9 of the 10 guest appearances as April Lopez. She was originally a stowaway on the show.
I enjoyed the fact you mentioned a little bit of the comedy with the guest stars. One of my favorite scenes involved Florence Henderson. So Florence Henderson, famously, we know her as Mrs. Brady, and Robert Reed, Mr. Brady. They both had appearances on the Love Boat. There's one scene where they have different storylines. So Florence Henderson is in one storyline, Robert Reed in another. They meet briefly at the buffet line. They give each other a look like, do I know you? They shake their heads and go the opposite way. That slays me.
That is so good. Now, I don't know if we mentioned earlier that the premise was there'd be three storylines. You said that. The three storylines you referred to earlier, John, there was usually a story written about a cast member, and that was usually a comedic bit, comedic story. And then interwoven would be one that features a crew member and one of the guests on the ship, whether it was a romantic thing between them or they were trying to help them with a problem. The crew member was prominent in that story. And then the third story usually was between a group of passengers or two passengers. Usually that was a love thing, and that was woven in as well. It was a very successful formula, and they stayed with it the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. I thought this is very accurate. My wife, Mrs. Hayes, had an observation about the Love Boat and the guest stars. She contends that if Ronald Reagan hadn't gone into politics, he would have been a guest on the Love Boat. From his background in the movies in the 30s and 40s, that's kind of
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Was he president of the Screen Actors Guild?
he
I'll have to
was.
fact check that. Yeah. So he had a couple of prominent careers for sure. And why did you pick Florence Henderson over Charo? I'm just curious.
Because Charles drove me nuts. I gave the tie to Mrs. Brady, Florence Henderson, and I should, I guess, looking back on that, I mean, whatever talent Charo had, she made the most of it. And for those of us without a lot of talent, she's doing the best she could. I should have
I'm
maybe mentioned that as a tie. How about you?
I'm in full agreement with you because she was a one-trick pony. And the one trick she did, after a while, I wouldn't even look at the screen, you know. It's just you did this on the Tonight Show, you did this on the Mike Douglas show. But
Yeah.
I mean, good for her. Good for her.
Yep.
They used to do on the Love Boat these dynamic dance numbers, you know, big productions. They had what Ann Miller had. I'm trying to think of all these old time 1940s, 30s actresses that used to do dance and all that stuff. Carol Channing was another one.
Ginger Rogers.
Ginger Rogers, yeah. They'd have and Ethel Merman. They'd come on there and they'd back to their glory days. They relived it, and it was spectacular with the costumes and all that. Who else? Don Amici. Don
Oh,
Amici. He was a male actor that was very prominent in the 30s and the 40s and debonair. And well, I'm sure my grandma went nuts when she saw that come on. And it was a show that had something for everybody again. And
yes.
to hear this trivia and all that, you get the people that are a little past their prime and it's a tribute to them. You get the up and coming people either on network TV or in movies who later became big, big stars. And you have just the regular people like the ever present Bert Convy, people like that would come on there as well. And like I said, great formula. And it went really well. The theme song, the Love Boat theme, it was a disco song. Like you said, Jack Jones did it. And that was his last hit. Did you know that? His last song that charted. So he went out with a disco song. Who'd have thunk?
Good for him.
And some people probably hated the show. But guess what? It ran its course. It did pretty well. And I'm not going to say I was a big fan, but now that I'm an old boomer and the wife has it on, I'm kind of enjoying the nostalgic part to it. And
Absolutely. I enjoyed my research. I didn't watch the complete show's 250 episodes, but the research I did, it took me back, and it was a lot of fun. Like I said, I really enjoyed the positive energy of the crew, and it's a nice feel good, light humor, things like that. Yeah, I enjoyed that research.
like you said, you like the teamwork. It reminds you of your working days. Yeah, he's Bernie Coppell's still alive. He's 92 years old. Artie Johnson was another one that was on there quite a bit. Audra Lindley, Juliet Mills. Her dad was John Mills, and her sister was Haley Mills, if you remember her.
Wow, the
Yeah,
original Parent Trap.
correct, correct. Connie Stevens, I had a crush on her, I'll admit it. World, I'll admit that. Yeah, anyway, they had some really interesting guests on here. There's Bert Convy, Carol Channing. John, you have done a nice job preparing for this, and we've been having a conversation like we usually do. We're going to wrap it up now. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off?
I would say number one, I enjoyed my revisit to the show. I don't watch the show as often as your wife does there, but I enjoyed the research watching the old episodes. But most industry insiders will cite the popularity of the TV show Love Boat for the rejuvenation of the cruise industry. So keep in mind, in 1970, there were an estimated 500,000 people who went on cruises. That number had jumped to over 5 million by 1997, and as of 2024, that number was 35 million people. And almost all industry insiders would say it's due to the popularity of the Love Boat, because prior to the Love Boat, the old adage in the cruise industry was cruises were for newlyweds or nearly dead, meaning super old people. So I mean, but it made cruises seem glamorous, accessible, maybe some romance happening there. So yeah, it's I think the cruise industry owes a big tip of the cap to the Love Boat TV show.
Yeah, and wasn't it the Pacific Princess? I know they used a few ships,
Yeah.
but the Pacific Princess they used for the stage shots, and there was a twin ship of that they used. And both of those ships became quite obsolete and too expensive to repair. So they end up getting a Turkish buyer to buy it for scrap for $3 million. dollars. And in 2013, it got scrapped. Actually, both those ships ended up getting scrapped around the same time.
Certainly.
That's good information. And so glad you came on. Go ahead on YouTube, comment, share, like, subscribe, and give us favorable reviews on the audio platform. John, wonderful job. We'll have you back a lot sooner unless you're off saving the world again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. So thank you, Rick.
And look forward going to tape another one, Ron Toon's Tunby. We're going to cover an old classic, the old serial shows from back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the Dead End Kids, evolving into the Bowery Boys. We're going to cover that probably the following week, so stay tuned for that. For John Hayes, I'm Rick Reed, My Boomer Buddies podcast. Want to thank you for joining us, and please come back. Until next time, we'll see you
Around the block.